Okay, welcome back to Fire Force Anime Review, episode number 23. This one reviewing the 27th episode, which is called Flashpoint. I'm covering not one, not two, but three chapters of the manga. This episode, when I look it up, covers chapters 99 to 102. Yes, covers roughly 4 chapters. Caps off the previous arc, which is the first Company 4, which is only just a 9-chapter arc. And yeah, they kind of pretty much did this arc in just 3 episodes, which is not all that surprising. This episode, despite the fact it finished up that arc, it also started the very next arc, the 5th Pillar arc, which is roughly 12 chapters. But this episode only covered the first 3 episodes. And from what I can tell, this particular arc has got Soul Eater Easter eggs. Some of them anyways. Well, let's start. The episode starts off pretty much now they kind of rearranged the opening pages of chapter 99. Like, the episode opens up in the hospital wing of Company 6, which is probably near where Company 4 is. Yeah, they start off there instead of basically in the captain of Company 4's office for some reason. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they did this for. It's kind of weird. They have the scene in the episode where they're in the office again, but in the hospital, probably because of the aftermath. Average basically just recovering from what happened last episode. Also, we have the second pillar beating the crap one of our subordinates, which is not happening in the manga. Well, not this point, anyways. In the last episode, yeah, she did beat the crap out of the guy. And he's utilized this episode, and like, oh yeah, I freed those guys last episode. And well, then we have it where Shira basically is having a conversation with Captain Hago, which proceeds mostly as presented in the manga. They did make one small visual change in the manga. The window basically where Shira jumped out is covered up. In the anime, it looks like it was fixed really quickly. Yep, really quickly. Not really sure why. Of course, they talk about the Dola burst, and they go out to the office, which actually is not from the manga. They kind of basically, this whole thing with him, this conversation outside of his office, is a bit original, but it does pretty much just expand upon something like, for expressing apologies, like, don't worry, it was an accident. And then he asks him, which he does not ask in the manga, he doesn't really know exactly how to feel about the first time he experienced the Dola burst. And then, of course, we have Arthur and Shira basically being told by the lieutenant from Company 6, basically, that Company 6 helped them, and they walk back. And the scene proceeds mostly exactly the same as in the manga, and then we cut to Obi at the Fire Defense Headquarters. In the manga, it's referred to as the Tokyo Fire Defense Headquarters. In the English dub, they drop the name Tokyo for some reason, despite the fact that it's a part of Tokyo Empire. Also, the fire chief is very much presented in the English dub as sort of talking with American accent, despite the fact the character is supposed to be Japanese. Now, I have heard characters who are supposed to be Japanese speak English. This guy clearly has an English accent. Well, most likely an American accent. Well, like a big, gruff, and tough one. When we talk about the white-class soldiers, the conversation between him and Obi is mostly the same. They do raise bits and pieces of dialogue here and there, but mostly put it's the same as presented in the manga. They talk about how the companies are not willing to help. They're not exactly fully convinced. And Hedgehog Industries, this part is true from the manga, they're not very cooperative. Yeah, this is explored later on in the Hedgehog Industries, like when they infiltrate the damn company. Then he leaves, and of course they mention that he's mature. He always says he doesn't know that. Doesn't know if he has or not, but according to the fire chief, yeah. And he basically goes to come to whether he invests and go out for company help. And then we show the 5th pillar, Inka, who is a fire thief, who's a schoolgirl, and she's got pink hair. And apparently she wears a hoodie, like Medusa from Soul Eater. Now here's the strange thing. I think Medusa from Soul Eater. Is this character voiced by Lucia Christian? No, she isn't. No, she doesn't. She actually voices. I don't think she voiced anyone in the series. Voiced by some different actress, where she just sees a fire because she has ability to detect fires, and she's able to now mostly put her scene with the old man. It's mostly the same. They do change bits of dialogue here. She has money for him, and up her subordinates. How she gets to that particular point, she basically tells her friends, her high school classmates, like, "Oh yeah, I forgot something." She's like, "Again," and that's where Liz is that little thing. And then we have her like talking with her guys for a while, and then she gets like a whole bunch of fires chopping up, and then the first pillar comes to her in a vision. Yep, the first pillar comes to her, and mostly kind of reveals that she's the fifth pillar. Now, they do cut like a couple panels from the manga at this point, because in the manga, we do see Captain Obi again at this point. And he's talking to a couple, I think he's talking to Lieutenant, and I think, not Arthur, it might be Victor. Yeah, it might be Vulcan, but they actually don't show that particular moment for some reason. I'm not really sure why they cut that thing out, because next thing you see is Shira's detecting, oh yeah, the first pillar is there, we have to go. So they go with where the district is. And they're basically now they get there, now they do cut another thing from the manga. Explain what the Iron Eagle is. Yeah, the Iron Eagle is some kind of special camera system made by Vulcan and Victor. Yep, that's really what this is. They explain how it works in the manga. In the anime, it looks like a VR type of thing. Or like, oh, we have this visor on the face of Victor and Maki, just cuz. And pretty much they go out and try to deal with the Infernals. Of course, what the rest of the Fire Force is up to during this whole thing, that's actually explored in the later chapters. This arc happens in the next episode. And then we see Charon, the big bulky guy who's subordinate to the second pillar. He walks behind one of Inca's subordinates and proceeds to rip his arm and part of his body clean off with one punch. And he's like, "Are you Inca? Are you the fifth pillar?" He doesn't really answer the question. And basically that he notices that apparently she can detect fire. It's like, oh, starting point. Punch. Yep, she does a few times to him. And then he's about to hit her, and of course, then Shira shows like, oh, and he's like, oh, Hero's here. And he's like, oh, Shira, the fourth pillar. Shira gets to me. Yeah, he knows who he is, probably by reputation. It's like, oh, fourth and fifth pillar. Interesting. Now, there's a slight wording change here. It's like, oh, the fourth pillar is coming to sing the fifth pillar. Interesting. I'm going to fight you. And then, of course, the episode ends with her smiling. Like, something interesting is going to happen. And that's how the episode ends. Interesting episode. The only changes they make are basically a couple visual changes and some changes of dialogue mostly, but it's saying exactly the same. And interesting, though, that unlike the other arcs where I like the arc in the series coming before, when it's 3 episodes, I did most of the entire arc in like one episode. I would say the other arcs where they take longer because they are a little bit longer. This one just chapters. They did the first 3. Which, okay, so that means this arc probably would take about 4 episodes, so I'd say this arc probably be wrapped up by episode 31. It's just impossible. But 31, so how far do I think Andrew would see? I'd probably say first Holy Temple, that's probably something they recovered. They pretty much finished up the arc in first. I think recovered 2 arcs in just a few episodes. In just 2 episodes, they already finished up 1 arc and now arc. It's technically the 9th arc in the manga, 5th pillar. So the next 2 arcs coming this one are pretty much just letter. So don't think they can get through? No. I mean, I think that I think either this season end with First Holy Temple or Hydra Industry arc. That one of those 2 arcs probably will be one in the season, but Who knows? Alright, so moving on to the manga. Now, there are 3 chapters here I'm covering. When all said and done, regret and parting gift. I read these chapters, and you want to know what happens to these chapters? It's mostly just the captain of Company 7 versus his own mentor, and they fight for almost the entirety of these chapters. And we also see a brief cutaway to Captain, the Hejima of Company 5. We see her in the captain of Company 1 just observing this, and we see a brief flashback to the captain's childhood, where we see that the Inferno, who was also his mentor, who he basically took his advice trying to attack him, some guards take him away, and talk about feeling of a leader, and it's like, to basically have a balls to take me on, and that's it. That's all that literally happens in these 3 chapters. And it seems as though with chapter 228, it seems like we're kind of getting close to wrapping up this fight. That's what it seems like. Yeah, one thing I looked at though for 227 is mostly like just him versus mentor, with a brief flashback. 27 is mostly that plus a little bit of cutaway. 26 is just all fight. Yeah. I'm gonna give all 3 chapters roughly a 8.5 out of 10. It feels as though these chapters are going, it's like we're not progressing forward, we're not cutting to something else. Well, I think that might have a good idea at this point. I'm hoping, my hope is that this particular fight will wrap up with next chapter. 229 would probably come out, probably not this week, because I'm sure there's probably some people were expecting the other chapter to come out, but that didn't happen this week. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this particular review. My next review is going to be a review of Comic Corner, or review a very controversial storyline that came out 2 years ago. Yep. See you next video. Bye.